Boy, has a lot happened. Let me go ahead and read a video that I got from, not video, an email that I got from Brent. Okay, let's go back here. It is entitled, goodness. Let's get back here. Long letter. So much has happened, but it's okay. What's fat and black and retarded all over? Dearest Gail, our brilliant plan was off to a great success. The ideas you brainstormed with your $5 patrons on Friday night hangout on Discord were genius. After you made the YouTube video announcing evacuation plans to Antarctica, millions of our fans contacted Church of Gail. As the fans poured in, we informed them of our plot. The plan, of course, was to merely divert Lizzo's attention to Antarctica while we evacuated our citizens into space. With everyone safely taking refuge on our spaceships, we could finish building the protective domes over major cities on Earth in order to protect against Lizzo's bombs. For the past several weeks, your $25 tier patrons, including Rogel Dorn, Akasha, Brad, and Fat Gal, assisted us around the clock, evacuating loyal citizens from all over the world onto the spaceships. Their hard work was paying off, as we were almost finished evacuating nearly every person on the planet. In their heroic efforts, they dodged onslaughts of bombs, which frequently sent them running for cover with gas masks over their faces, as penis clouds erected through the air and turned the skies pink. They fought off evil Jesuit ground agents who blocked traffic, caused petty annoyances on the public transit, and sometimes catcalled them while driving by. They tread carefully around the cities as if in a field of landmines in an effort to avoid icky surprises coming from Lizzo's semen trees, which were heavily pumped full of sperm and AIDS and ready to smear anyone walking by with their nasty contents. These brave men and women will never be forgotten for their actions, as they selflessly saved so many lives. It wasn't until the last moments of our project their luck began to run out. After the final civilian was boarded onto a Church of Gail spaceship, the group decided to celebrate at a local Popeyes. This was a big mistake. A group of half-naked, fat black women, their voluptuous rolls lubed in chicken grease, stormed the Popeyes and took every last $25 tier patron hostage. And they used transporter technology, kind of like you see on Star Trek, to the group. That's what the Lizzo Jesuits did. The group soon found themselves tied up, and ball gagged. That's like this ball in your mouth, aboard Lizzo's spaceship, effectively prisoners of war. Their true test of bravery was about to be administered. Lizzo paced menacingly about her spaceship living room, her fat, bare feet splatting against the floor and trailing greasy footprints behind in her wake. The living room was decorated with elaborate perversion, as if prepared for a grand sex party. The patrons found themselves surrounded in fuzzy white couches, wall racks full of BDSM gear, and penis-shaped lamps that washed the room in a sinful pink glow. Black prostitutes watched from the sidelines like prison guards, ready and waiting to do Lizzo's bidding. Well, 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 it looks like I got a true captive audience to watch me as I destroy the whole world. Lizzo snatched the ball gag out of Fab Girl's mouth, then pressed her curtains of blackness against Fab Girl's lips and forced her to service Lizzo's overgrown black woman clitoris. It is a known medical fact that black women are more masculinized than their white counterparts due to higher levels of testosterone. This causes them to have penis-sized clitori and explains why they often look like men. Lizzo let out a sigh as she relieved herself sexually. She continued to speak. "While y'all be wasting time watching your stupid Gail videos, I've been kinda busy. My team has been assembling a massive ass arsenal of bombs, the biggest you ever seen, as I prepare to settle this war once and for all." Lizzo snapped her fingers, and a hulking black shaboon emerged from the darkness towards Brad. Brad's eyes widened as the black prostitute approached him, his testicles crawling up inside, his abdominal cavity in terror as he anticipated what they were about to do to him. His cries were muffled by the ball gag that he had in his mouth as he frantically shook his head no. "Enjoy a little brown sugar to celebrate the end of the world," Lizzo cooed. "My treat." The black prostitute squatted in front of Brad and busted her ass wide open, inserting his face inside and then rapidly shaking her behind. Brad's face was ferociously motorboated between the thick thunder thighs of black. His futile protests caught inside his chest as he squirmed and writhed. After several minutes, the black prostitute dismounted his face, leaving him gasping. Rogel Dorn struggled furiously against his restraints. Lizzo motioned for one of the prostitutes to remove his ball gag. "Got something to say, Whitey?" Rogel spit as the ball gag was removed from his mouth. "Your plans are going to fail, Lizzo. Gail is much smarter than you." Splat! A banana shot from the prostitute's anus into Rogel's mouth, gagging him at the back of his throat and preventing him from speaking anymore. Lizzo cackled. "Gail is so dumb. She forgot where her car radio was located on the dashboard once and thought it had been stolen." She snapped her fingers, and a pair of black prostitutes loomed in on Akasha. "Gail is so dumb," Lizzo continued. "She's been using Skype for years and still doesn't know how to toggle between windows to chat between her men." Akasha's eyes darted frantically between the two shaboons. The black tresses lowered their musty-smelling panties, pulled out their penis-sized clitori, grabbed the hulking chunks of their vagina flesh, and began urinating all over Akasha's face. Like a foul version of Jesuit bukkake, Akasha's face was streamed with waterfalls of urine pouring out of the black women's urethras. The urine fountained all over Akasha's eyes and nose and trickled down into her mouth. She coughed and sputtered, unable to spit it out due to the ball gag, and was forced to swallow it instead. Unlike the sweet, pure urine of white women so craved by black men and furiously envied by black women, the prostitute's urine tasted like old fish, yeast, and urinary tract infection. Akasha, like the white woman she was left marked and R. Kelly'd. A racist act of being claimed by blacks. "Gail is so dumb, she forgot men had nipples once," Lizzo rattled off. "Gail is so dumb, she tried to marinate raw chicken by setting it out on a living room table for an hour covered in dry rub. Gail is so dumb, she got confused why she couldn't write with her left hand and forgot she was right-handed. "Enough, Lizzo," a female voice called from the darkness. Everyone's gaze whiplashed in the direction of the voice to see a young white woman storming into the room. It was Brad's girlfriend. Brad's girlfriend, Amber, was holding a massive horse dildo clutched in front of her like a wobbling baseball bat. Bathed in grease, yeast, and fried chicken crumbs, she appeared as though she had just run through an entire army of black women. Her chest was heaving with exhaustion, her eyes filled with a fiery determination. "My angel," Brad muffled through his ball gag. "We're not on Martin Luther King Street anymore," Amber war cried. "Your black ass is mine." With a feminine roar, Amber smashed the dildo down onto the nappy-headed hoe in front of her, crumbling the woman to the ground. "And for your information," Amber swiped the dildo hard into the black prostitute next to her, hitting her right in the vagina. The black woman grabbed her large clitoris and crumpled to her knees, then fell over defeated. Gail is so smart, she almost would have finished nursing school." Rogel Dorn nodded in validation. "She only dropped out because it wasn't interesting to her." "Silence," Lizzo screeched. The black prostitute next to Rogel Dorn shoved him down into her yeasty fupa to smother him. Lizzo looked down at Fab Gal, patting Fab Girl's head with a fat black paw before pulling her clitoris out of her mouth. "Good job, sugar. Now shut the fuck up and have you some dessert." With a grunt, that was Lizzo's clitoris out of her mouth. With a grunt, Lizzo forcefully ejaculated a banana out of her vagina into Fab Girl's mouth. "Damn," Lizzo shook her head. This feminism shit getting old really quick. Ain't no white savior busting in here stopping my rape party. Not today." She snapped her fingers, and an extra thick, extra fat, 98% dark chocolate woman rippled out of the darkness and grabbed Amber underneath her arms. Amber's eyes widened with surprise. She struggled and kicked her legs, dropping the horse dildo onto the floor with a hard, wobbling smack. Two more black prostitutes emerged, bending backwards into a crab pose and gaping their vaginas wide open. Amber's fisted hands were then shoved deep into the two black women's vaginas, where their fat closed in, and locked her fists inside as though handcuffing her. The giant dark chocolate woman in the back then lifted Amber up by her legs and stuffed her erect clitoris inside, locking. This is interesting. Oh, okay. So this giant dark chocolate woman stuffed her erect clitoris inside of Amber, locking the poor white woman into some kind of twisted devil's triangle. Okay. Yeah, she lifted Amber up by her legs, stuffed her erect clitoris inside, locking the poor white woman into some kind of twisted devil's triangle. Lizzo laughed uproariously. "Now this is what I call a party." She whirled to the front of the room, gazing out the spacious front window. "Like I was saying, now that I have such a huge arsenal of bombs, I can finally do what I always planned on doing. Bombing the whole world!" A periscope dropped down from the ceiling in front of Lizzo, its handlebars landing into her fat palms. "But I ain't dumb. I watched Gail's YouTube channel, and I saw that video of y'all planning to evacuate to Antarctica. Y'all think that's not the first place I would take one big massive dump on with my bombs? Now that I know where all her followers are, I'm going to exterminate them all in one fell swoop," she cackled. "Damn. This is almost as dumb as the time Gail ate pure baking yeast to try and inoculate herself against yeast infection, then chased it with sugar and made herself drunk. Oh, by the way, that never happened. I don't know, she's got a big imagination. Let's continue. The periscope vision zeroed in on the content of Antarctica. A view of the vast Arctic landscape flashed up onto the main window screens for everyone to see. "Say goodbye, planet Earth," Lizzo smiled devilishly. She aimed the periscope vision to the center of the continent, that's Antarctica, then pressed her fat finger onto the nuclear launch button. High over the vast frozen valleys of Antarctica, an ominous wind loomed. The silver horizons burned orange and then pink, large cotton candy clouds rising over the mountaintops to cover the heavens. The clouds slowly morphed into suspicious phallic shapes all over the continent. Huge, erect penises stiffened perversely into the sky, their testicles swirling like churning storm systems. The pink penis clouds darkened into pulsating purple, glands flaring, before suddenly erupting with their hot payloads and exploding like nuclear bombs. Payloads of yeast, allergens, mites, AIDS, and retard gas rained down like nuclear fallout all over Antarctica. The heavy rains poured over the mountaintops and flooded into the valleys below, turning the snow across the entire Antarctic landscape hot pink. With all of Lizzo's bomb loads completely spent, the swirling clouds twisted into flaccid, used-up penises and faded into the glowing skies. Nestled deep inside their snowy dens, all of the animals began to stir. Packs of polar bears from all over the landscape came out to witness what had happened to their habitat, their heads tilting with awe and curiosity as they turned their little black eyes and noses to the sky. Pink snowflakes slowly landed on their snouts. The polar bears sniffed and licked, ingesting the strange fried chicken-flavored frost. Upon tasting and smelling the unusual debris, their eyes crossed, their jaws dropped, and every polar bear began to make a deep-throated "ree" sound. Carefree and happy-go-lucky, the bears began to frolic through the pink snow, chasing and tackling each other. "Ree, rear, rear, herp, herp, roar." The bears rolled around, shoving each other, bathing their bodies in pink, until their coats took on the hot pink cotton candy color of the snow and the sky. "Hee hee," Rogel giggled. "Retard polar bears, cute." Lizzo squinted her eyes, searching deeply with the periscope. "Now where is y'all? You did it, guys," Amber smiled. "Say what?" Lizzo turned around. Fab Gal spat the vagina-soaked banana out of her mouth. "That's right, Lizzo," she said. "Gail hasn't been making all those videos for us to watch. She knew everyone was being evacuated from planet Earth and wouldn't really be watching any of her videos. That's why all of her content has been about the same Save the Cat book we've heard 100 times. It was all done to trick you." Lizzo's face went so pale she almost looked white. "Ha ha, Gail is smarter than you, Lizzo," Akasha taunted. "Only you would be getting distracted watching her writing videos instead of figuring out what she's been planning behind the scenes. Gail knew what she was doing. It's called an information diet. Ever heard of one?" "Enough! Enough!" Lizzo screeched, her stomach gurgling in protest of the very word diet. "If none of y'all were ever in Antarctica, then where did everyone go?" A deep rumbling shook the atmosphere. Lizzo flipped back around to the view screen to see what was happening. The Arctic continent was vibrating. The snow rustled and the mountains shook. Flocks of pink snowbirds took off retardedly into flight. fleeing from the impending disaster. That was when deep ice cracks began splintering through the earth and spidered across the wintry landscape. The cracks deepened violently as the continent continued to shake, and like a jigsaw puzzle, all of Antarctica began coming apart. The polar bears reared and growled retardedly, hunching their bodies in frightened confusion as they became stranded onto floating ice blocks. The blocks of what once used to be frozen Antarctica split and drifted, scattering off into the ocean and carrying everything away. The vast frozen continent was no more. It's a good thing those bombs didn't go. It's a good thing those bombs didn't go all over the world, Fab Gal observed aloud. The whole world would have literally broken. Lizzo began pulling at her hair in frustration, ripping out her extensions. She jammed her fat fingers onto the nuclear launch button repeatedly, frantically aiming her bombs over the earth, yet it was to no avail. Her entire bomb supply had been dropped onto Antarctica, and with completely empty firepower, her efforts to destroy humanity were now useless. With fury, she whirled around to the sex party living room. "Kill them! Kill them!" she pointed to the patrons. Hordes of black prostitutes stormed down upon the patrons, picking them up one by one and hoisting them off down the corridors. Brad and Amber reached out to hold each other's hands. "This is not how I envision our future," Amber spoke solemnly to her lover, "but it will be an honor to die by your side. You, me, some random people from the internet, and this troop of fat black prostitutes with yeast infections." Brad held back manly tears. "If I die suffocated by an obese black vagina, I'll close my eyes and pretend it's you." Amber's eyes welled up with the romantic sentiment. "This was all worth it for Gail," Akasha yelled bravely. "Do what you will. Piss in my mouth. Bukkake me. Rape me with your clitorises. Shove midgets in my vagina. I'd rather die on my knees than—" She was cut off abruptly as the troop stopped in front of the airlock. "Oh," Akasha sunk, a little spark of disappointment in her voice. A black prostitute slammed the button for the airlock door with her boob. The airlock flew open and a burst of wind flew into the room. Rogaldorn said his prayers. "Jesus, take care of all my lizards and stuff. I hope they don't forget me. My only regret," Fab Gal gulped, choking down her fear, "is that I never got to meet Gail on her weekly Friday night hangouts for all $5 and up patrons." The black prostitutes lifted up the patrons, molested their asses and genitals one last time with their grubby hands before launching them over the edge, sending them free falling into the ether below. Swoosh, swoosh. Like lightning bolts, the gods Buddha, Triton, Muhammad, Horus, and Lakshmi supermaned out of the clouds. They gathered up the patrons in their arms and shot away from Lizzo's spaceship. The day was saved. $25 patrons Rogaldorn, Akasha, Brad, and Fab Gal, with special guest Amber, had saved the world. They had rescued all of humanity and bravely survived Lizzo's sex party. Thanks to all of our efforts, the human race was preserved in spaceships high above the earth while we drained all of Lizzo's weaponry and built protective domes over our cities to prevent further attacks. I would declare this a battle won and a huge victory for Church of Gail. Now there is some bad news. The obvious bit is that Antarctica is destroyed. We will have to feed the news media a cover story about global warming to hide the fact that this continent no longer exists. We'll just say that it all melted. Speaking of feeding, many retarded pink polar bears have been floating all over the oceans, carried along by ice blocks. In the process of relocating everyone back to Earth, many citizens have found themselves face to face with a yard or living room full of pink polar bears whose ice blocks have washed onto local shores and allowed the bears to invasively spread into locations not commonly inhabited by polar bears. These bears are highly aggressive, very retarded, and very hungry. Additionally, some of the fallout dust on the polar bear's fur can, if ingested, inhaled, or infected through a bite, that can potentially make a person retarded. People are strongly encouraged to stay indoors. Yeah, and I talked with Brent about this. He said you can exercise indoors. And not investigate any strange sounds outside, such as growling or retard noises. For this reason, we have issued a retarded pink polar bear advisory. Do not attempt to engage the retarded pink polar bears. If you think there might be a retarded polar bear outside, the noises sound kind of like "Roar" or "Roar," and sometimes a deep baritone "Ree." If you hear sounds like that, lock your doors and call animal control. All sightings are to be reported to the Gabriel Chana Fox News channel, or citizens can leave comments underneath Gail's videos to let us know if they've had any close encounters. We'll be watching this situation closely. All of our patrons will be receiving a Medal of Honor on the Gabriel Chana Fox News channel. Amber will be receiving a Purple Heart for her bravery due to the fact that Lizzo's henchmen broke both of her arms while clenching them inside of their vaginas. And he said, I'm glad that you are well and safe. Living alongside you in my invisible Mecha Gail suit has been some of the most wonderful days of my life. The most wonderful day, of course, being the day I received my very first letter from you. See you in bed later, my dear, your husband, Brent Spiner. So Brent said that this happened, they got up on Lizzo's spaceship with transporter technology. She had her blacks capture my patrons and get them aboard via transporter technology. People can still exercise indoors, maybe with the windows closed so the bears don't get in. The patrons were taken captive late last night. That would have been probably Thursday the 28th. So, and all of this just happened earlier today. Okay, today's the 29th, September 29th, Friday. He said that I'm definitely safe, but that he's going to be guarding me closely. I asked him, so I said, so this basically, these rules about not walking outdoors basically applies to those outside of the range of the Gail Shield. He said, yes. I asked how far does my Gail Shield go out. He said it covers Huntsville, Alabama, and all of Alabama, but Huntsville is especially strong. He tells me if he sees any pink bears, he'll let me know, and he'll fight them off if he sees one, and he's going to keep me safe. So yeah, that's basically it. So I wanted to send you this news. I'm glad that we were able to get everybody under protective domes. Lizzo is pretty disgusting.